Well, I guess we will go ahead and start to kind of introduce ourselves and go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you for coming. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. This is the first Zoom webinar that we have done as Gorgas Library librarians, so we think it will run relatively smoothly. We hope it will, basically. But as we talked about in the email and the invitation, basically we're going to be talking about how to use the citation management programs, RefWorks and Zotero. Like I said, we're going to go and introduce ourselves in 1 minute. A quick note about this. We are going to be recording it, so we will send the recording out to you if you are interested in having it. So you'll have the recording, so we don't really feel like it's something where you necessarily, we are getting a lot of people joining, so I may have to go back over this stuff in 1 second. But we are recording this, so if you missed something, that will be a way of going back over it. We are also going to provide some extra resources, some guides, and some tutorials for both of these. So you don't have to worry too much about if you miss one thing or if you have some questions, but one of the benefits of you being here today while this is going on is that you can ask questions. The most obvious place for us to answer questions is towards the end, but you can ask questions at any point. The way this is going to work, I think, is Sarah will be talking about Zotero, and I'm going to be talking about RefWorks. So when one of us is not talking, we are going to be monitoring the chat to kind of keep track of it and see if questions are being asked, and then we'll share it with the speaker and we can stop and answer questions. So I guess we will kind of go ahead and get started. Does anyone have any questions, or is anyone having any trouble hearing us or seeing anything? Are there any technical difficulties? Okay. So we're, like I said, we're going to walk you through how to use RefWorks and Zotero. First, we are going to introduce ourselves. 1 second. And we will start with Dr. Sarah Sahn.
Yeah, so hi, thanks everyone for coming. I am, like Alex, a research and instructional services librarian at Gorgas. My liaison areas are gender and race studies, American studies, the new college, and the honors college. So basically, if you're doing interdisciplinary research, come see me. My email is on the screen, and it's also on the slide at the end. And I'm also holding drop-in Zoom hours, and I'm happy to meet with anyone and help you set up Zotero or help you out with anything else. So I'll be talking about Zotero today, and I've been using Zotero pretty much exclusively for about 10 years. So hopefully that will be some helpful experience for everyone. So.
Okay, and me, I'm Alex Boucher. Like Sarah, I'm a research librarian at Gorgas Library. We are in the same department. My primary main liaison areas are the College of Human Environmental Sciences and the Department of History. My contact address is there, but I will give you my contact information at other times. I am going to be the one talking about RefWorks. So we're kind of going back and forth to some extent. But as far as what we are doing today overall, it's pretty straightforward. We'll demonstrate how to use Zotero. We'll demonstrate how to use RefWorks. They are relatively similar in that they don't do hugely different things, but there are differences. And during the course of this, you might get a sense of which one is more suited for you and your work. We'll talk about some of those differences probably after we've discussed both of them. And we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. This is going to be relatively informal, is my thought. So like I said, Sarah's going to start with Zotero. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat. Otherwise, we can just answer questions once we get done with each section. And like I said, we are also recording this. So I am going to stop sharing my screen. Or actually, you have a couple of more slides, so we can just go ahead and do this. But I think Sarah is going to go ahead and start discussing Zotero.
Yeah, so Zotero is it's an open source citation management program. It's been around for a good while. It would have been around for a while when I started using it. I think it's not going anywhere. It's a desktop app that has cloud storage and a browser plugin. So like you have an account with Zotero, you can sync between devices, but you do most of the work in a desktop app. You can store and organize references, notes, and PDFs. It also takes, it'll archive web pages, so it'll take a snapshot of a web page if you are doing research on, like social media or something. You can generate citation lists. There's word processor integration, and it supports academic and non-academic formats. And it also supports collaboration. So you can create shared libraries between or among, people in different institutions to support a collaborative project. So that is, thank you, Alex. I'm going to go over how to download and install Zotero, and then I'll just show you a demo kind of adding a couple different types of items to your Zotero library and a couple different ways you can do that, and then some of the ways you can organize and then generate bibliographies and in-text citations with the Word plugin. And like Alex said, I mean, he'll be monitoring the chat, but please feel free to turn your mic on and just ask me questions as I'm doing this. And Alex, if I'll share my screen too, and hopefully this will work. So, okay. This. All right, so hopefully, where I actually want to start here is, so you install Zotero from Zotero.org. So it's there are kind of two pieces that you need. So the big red button on the home page, and then there are these two pieces that you need. So you would download both the Zotero application, and then you also need to install this connector. And what the connector does is it it adds a little button. This is it up here. If you can see my on the top of my web browser, and it will automatically sense content on the web so that you can add things to your library really easily. And I'm sorry, they're mowing behind me, and I have my window open. It should be gone pretty quickly. So I already have all this installed, so I can show you. Excuse me, I'm going to shut my window. All right, that's a little better. Sorry about that. So I have my Zotero application open, and I'm showing you something. I'm showing you like what is almost like a little bit of a mess. Again, this is I'm a decade into using this. So you can see I have lots of different kind of ways that I've been organizing this. You can use the folders, are called collections within Zotero, and then you can create tabs. Yes, it can be embedded to Safari. So when you saw on Zotero, when I went to the download, I'm using Chrome, so it sensed that, but it supports Firefox and Safari as well. Zotero actually started off just as a Firefox extension, and it has over time developed. So I'm gonna show you a couple of different ways to add an item. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is just within Zotero. So I am clicked into a particular folder here for a project I'm working on right now. And you can see I have a whole bunch of stuff in there, and I have this article up in Eric that I want to add. So I'm going to go up here, and this is my Zotero button. So you can see it says Save to Zotero, Eric, and I'm just going to click that, and it is telling me it's going to save to this folder. If I wanted to, I could expand out and put it somewhere else. And it tells me here are the things that I am going to add. And I can add tags in this moment if I want. Otherwise, I'll just hit done and it'll be there. And I'm sorry, I have these. Did it do it? It didn't do it for me. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Usually, sorry, but usually I did this with this exact article right before this, make sure it was going to work. There. Oh, sorry about that, you guys. Why isn't this working? Okay. I'm gonna refresh the page and try again. There we go. Okay, so that did it. I have a plugin that moves things around for me, which I'm not going to talk about today, but I'm happy to help people with at other, in a one-on-one basis, or whenever I can help with that. Sorry, I see there's a question. Yeah, I would say that it would be kind of redundant to use both. I've played around in both, so I at least have a little bit of a feel for how RefWorks works. I find that I have a preference for Zotero. I'm at least partly because of just familiarity and experience. But you might find that, it makes sense to use one for one project and one for another project, or you can experiment a little bit.
Sarah,
Yeah.
I know how to use multiple ones like EndNote or RefWorks, but it's mainly just for job purposes, just for teaching students. If I'm doing my own work, I would just choose one, just because if you use more than one, you would have to kind of duplicate your efforts. Really, you would have to save articles to multiple things, that sort of thing. So usually, I think people would just choose one.
Yeah. So I've clicked the browser extension, and now you can see once I've clicked over, here's my article. And so it has automatically imported, it's detected the item type, it has the author, the abstract, all of the bibliographic information. It also has the URL. And because there was an accessible PDF, it grabbed the PDF for me. So I have the PDF that is linked, and I've set up kind of in my preferences what I want it to do. So it does it automatically, but you can do this. You can either have it kind of go into Zotero and be stored within the application, or you can set up a link to another folder. And you can add, if you don't have the automatic attachment for the PDF, you can always add with this button up here, you can attach a stored copy of your file, so the actual file will just be attached to the item, or you can attach a link to a file. And that really just has to do with where it's being stored. And again, that's something I can help folks set up. For a long time, I just kept everything on my local Zotero program, but my library got too big to sync across devices. So when I wanted to work on multiple devices, I started storing it in the cloud and using links. So that's something that you can set up. It's a little bit more of an advanced feature, but always, it's a great feature to be able to you just have your article here, and then I can open it up and I've got it right here. The other way that you can always add a book or add an item manually by just hitting the plus sign. You can pick, it has the most common items, but you can pick a huge variety of different types of items to add. There's also this little magic wand that lets you add items using an ISBN or DOI. So I can do that. I have this book that I grabbed. So I could add this also from the connector, but I wanted to show adding it with the ISBN. That's a really just convenient way to do things. So I would just click on here and add that. And I've got my, I've got the book. It pulled in all of the information that it could find. And again, it actually pulled in some notes in the table of contents. So that'll all depend on kind of what data is stored associated with the DOI or the ISBN or whatever other thing you are using. Can you add music? Yes, I believe you can. Let me see. You can do radio broadcast. I think that there might be I feel like there is a way to do this. Oh, audio recording.
Yeah, that's what audio
recording. Audio recording. You can also, I believe, I've never done this because I've never needed to, but I believe you can set up like custom formats in your thing. So if you wanted like a score, you could put that in. And I'd be happy to help you out, kind of trying to figure that out. So that is, okay. So that is kind of adding items. I can add tags. So I could have added tags to these items in the process of like using the browser connector, but I can also add tags just right over here. I can say, young adult fiction is something that's in my library. A lot of maybe fantasy literature. A lot of the things that, like when I pull in library books from a library catalog, the subject tags will get pulled in as tags. And I will tell you that my tag library is incredibly disorganized. I use a lot of keyword searching to find stuff. And I use a lot of my folders and collections to find and to organize things. So that's kind of the basic kind of organizational thing. You can also tag related items. So if I wanted to, I don't know, find other stuff that was in my library about Harry Potter, I could find another book and they would be then kind of associated with each other. That's a tool that I haven't used a ton, but is a useful option that you have. And then so the last couple of things, I want to be mindful of the time so that Alex has his half of the time. But I wanted to show how to, like some of the capabilities in terms of adding citations and kind of what that looks like. So, and I should also wanted to add that I'm showing all of this on a Mac. So a PC will have the same capabilities, but it's going to look a little bit different. So you can see I've installed the Zotero Word plugin. It's up here, and I have just a quote that I threw in this document and a note to myself about where it is. So I'm gonna click over to here, and I have a couple of options. So I can add or edit a citation, and the first one that I do, it gives me a whole list of formats that I can choose from. So I'm gonna tell it I want MLA8. I'm just gonna leave this. I want it to update citations if I make a change within my Zotero library. I'm gonna click OK, and then I'm gonna go here, and I know, so it's this article, and then I can click on here, and I can choose, I can add a page. I can also add text before or after. I can suppress the author if I want to. I'm gonna hit enter again, and it's there. And now I have this source associated with the document. So I have a couple of things that I can do now. one of the things I can do is I can go to my document preferences and say, actually, I don't want MLA 8, I want Chicago. Click OK, and now I have a note. I had to do it in a footnote. It's down here. Very handy. So if you're, switching between citation styles for a submission, or you just change your mind, I can add a bibliography. So now everything that is linked into the bibliography, I just clicked add edit bibliography, and it just dropped that in for me right where my cursor was. A couple of other ways that you can do that. I could just go right back to my library, and I could grab a citation and just drag and drop it. This will do this based on the preferences I have set within Zotero, not the document, so I'm going to want to check. I think my Zotero preferences are set for MLA. So now I have that. It always kind of messes with the formatting. That's easy to fix. So I can just drop that in. I can also, if I want, I can go to this whole collection. I can go to this whole folder. I can right click on it, and I can create a bibliography from the collection. So if I just click on that, I can tell it copy to the clipboard, Chicago, okay. I can just come back here and drop it right in. So if I just wanted to grab a list of things to send to somebody or something, now I have all of that in there. I have a lot of sources in there. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you with this, in that right click, you have an option that says generate a report from collection. And so what that does is that now creates a document that you can save or print with all of the information that is in your library, kind of in a more readable format if you wanted to sort of go through and review your research. It also imports your notes, and they should be dated, I think. So you can see, right, like some of these things are things that I added to my library years and years ago, and I can go back and say, oh, that's what I thought about that back when I read it. And I have then the option to save it as a PDF or as a simple HTML document, or I can print it, save it as a PDF. So that's kind of a way that it'll also facilitate kind of doing just bibliographic review and things like that. I think I saw that there was another question in the chat. Is AP's 7th edition already on there? I don't know, but if it's not, it will be very soon. They're usually very quick about getting stuff up there. So I think with that is everything kind of on my list. And again, I am really happy to work with anybody to help you set it up. If you want, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I'm very happy to work with folks to help you set up, in a Zoom session or, well, I guess eventually when we're in person, but also if you just had questions and wanted to email me, you're very welcome to do that. And I'm happy to talk with you about Zotero. And then this is just a list of resources. So we have a guide, which I realize actually I did update the slides with the proper address. This is for the UA guide, which just should have /Zotero. And I'm about to have a kitty come walk in front of my screen. And then there's the Zotero documentation is quite good. So I definitely recommend kind of taking a look at that. And then the Berkeley Zotero guide that I linked is also really, really useful. And I'll say hello to my cat who's walking across my keyboard. Yeah, so that's that. And I will turn things over to Alex.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So we are going to do a fairly similar thing for RefWorks. I'm going to kind of quickly walk you through how to use RefWorks, which, as we said, is relatively similar in a lot of ways. It's a citation management program. So like Zotero, it is good for organizing your research and then generating citations. Now, the main difference with RefWorks and Zotero is RefWorks is not free to use for most people. RefWorks is free to use for UA students and faculty because we have a license with them. But it's not open source like Zotero is. It's cloud-based, meaning you don't have to download anything to your computer. And I'll get to this, but just because it's free to use for UA students and faculty, you can actually continue using it if you move on from UA, if you graduate, or if you leave for another job, or so on and so forth. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. Just like with Sarah, just send your questions in as you have them. So what we're going to do, we'll learn how to create an account, learn how to automatically and manually export references to your RefWorks account, learn how to organize them within that RefWorks account, and then how to create citations and bibliography. So a similar thing, it's just you do it slightly different. So let's go ahead and I will open up a different thing and start to walk you through this. RefWorks is actually something that you sign up for through UA. You can sign up outside. You can just Google RefWorks, but it's maybe just easiest to go through either UA's website or the library's website. So to get to RefWorks on the library's website, you just start up at the home page, and it is located under Research Tools. And then right down here, we have licenses with RefWorks and EndNote. I am not going to talk about EndNote today, just RefWorks. When you do this, basically what you will want to create an account for is the new RefWorks. I believe you can still sign up for the old RefWorks, but presumably they're going to get rid of the old RefWorks before too long, so I would sign up for the new one. When you click on this, I believe I already logged in, so it won't show you, but you have to create an account. And then, let's see, yes, it actually would go ahead and just open this up. One thing it'll have you do, I may not bother showing you, but when you decide to create an account, when you log in, it will allow you to log in through your institution. So if you choose that, you just put Alabama, it will search for University of Alabama, you'll click on the link, and then you can just log in with your MyBama. So it all goes through MyBama. But once you've created an account, this is kind of the basics of what you'll see. So a couple of things here. Let me come over here. So when I'm talking about creating an account and keeping your account, I was going to first off show you a couple of things with this before we really get into importing references. One is if you click on your name here on the right, you'll see a couple of things, settings and tools. Tools we'll come back to, but tools, a couple of things you can download, like save to RefWorks, which is what you might use if you're trying to import things that you find on like a Google search. And then write and cite, which is what you add to your Microsoft Word. And we'll definitely show you that. But also on settings, I'm just going to point out a couple of quick things. If you click on this, it's having me log in, so I can actually show you this. You can either just sign in with your password, or you can do the use login from institution, Alabama. Click on this. And, well, I guess because I did it recently, it made me, but then you would have to log in with your MyBama. So when you create an account, you'll have to put in things obviously like first name, last name, your area. I am with the libraries, but you might be somewhere else. Role, I am an assistant professor, but you might be a grad student or faculty. But if you are a student here and you sign up for a RefWorks account, and you graduate and leave, or if you're faculty, you would do this either way. If you leave the University of Alabama, and so you're not affiliated with us in any way anymore, before you do that, you can change your status to alumni. And I've been told this works for faculty too. This is basically for our benefit. RefWorks doesn't really care. So if you leave here, just change this to alumni and you'll be able to keep your RefWorks account. That's what I've been told by everybody. So those are a couple of quick things to point out, that just because this is a license, you can keep it. Other things on this screen where you have all of your references. It's kind of like Sarah was showing with Zotero, in that you have options over here. So you have folders that you can organize your articles in. But above that, up here, you'll see that I have something that I have creatively called My Stuff. Basically, what these are projects. So every article in here, all 127 references, are in this project called My Stuff. And that project holds all these folders. If you want to work on multiple projects and keep things separate, you can create new projects by clicking on Manage Projects. I created one with just the sample dissertation. And if I click on that, there is only one article in here. So there's not even any folders. So it's just a way of keeping everything completely separate. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this because I may actually re-upload that in a second. But this is just a way of, if you're working on multiple articles or multiple books or multiple college papers or whatever, it's just a way of keeping things completely separate. Back here on my old other folder, I can show you really quickly a few things with your folders. When you click on one, you can scroll down to it and click on this and either add a subfolder or you can share your folder. So you just put in an email address and you can share this with anyone. The only thing is that for people to receive full access, they need to have a RefWorks account. You can also share projects as well. So those are sort of the basics of getting around, or the layout. In this one, I might go ahead and create a folder. We'll just call this one Chapter 1. So at this point, what you need to do is be able to import references into your account. You can do that a couple of different ways. A lot of them are similar to what Sarah was doing. So if you click on Add, you can do a few things. One, if you just want to put a reference in manually, you can do that. Most of the time when you're doing this, I suspect it would be you're adding something that's sort of a non-traditional source. And we'll get to why. Basically, if you're adding a book or a journal article or something like that, there are much easier ways to do this. But you can add things just like this. Like, let's say you have a journal article and you know the basic title of it. You can type in the title, or at least part of the title, and then click on the autocomplete over here, and it should take you down. Get this out of the way. And you should see the article that you want to find, basically. In this case, it's this one. You click on it, it uploads the abstract, the various information, and then you can add a PDF right here. Other ways that you can do this, you could just add a PDF. Let's cancel this. Let's go back to add, and I'll just upload a document. In this case, it's the same article, the one I just looked for. Sometimes this takes a minute, so I'll show you something else, which is that you can import references sort of in batches. So you can import from old RefWorks, you can import from Mendeley, or you could basically just import a lot of files on like a flash drive or a cloud thing. Basically just upload them in supported citation formats. Let's go back to where we were, and that document should have uploaded. So the problem with uploading PDFs is that it's sort of messy. Like if you look at this reference, it doesn't look right. You kind of have the title here, but this is obviously, this is not the title of the article. You also have for authors, JSTOR is a not-for-profit service. It's clearly not the author. But you can clean this up, and it's something that I can point out to basically everyone, is that editing a reference is relatively easy. So if you click on the pencil up in the top right, the easiest thing to do in this case is actually to use the autocomplete. So if you just take out all that junk, click on this, It should give you the auto-completed. All right, here it is again. So if I click on that, then it should be all right. The abstract is in, the author is in. You actually have the PDF in here because I uploaded it like that. You can click on the PDF and look at it. You can add notes to it if you want. You can scroll over a part of the article and let's see if it's gonna work with me here and highlight it fairly. The annotations are a little clunky at times, but the note taking is pretty easy. Let's see, let's go back to what we were looking at. If no one has any questions, I'll just go ahead and refresh this. So all of that basically, I guess I didn't save what I had done earlier, the edits, we'll just ignore that anyway. All of that, all of the adding, creating new reference manually, uploading document, importing references, those are all sort of the hard ways of doing this. Basically, the easiest thing to do with RefWorks is usually just to automatically import your references from search engines. So just to show you a couple examples of that, this works with most of our search engines. I'll just show a few examples from like Scout to JSTOR to maybe WorldCat. Let's see, the chats. Can the same entry be saved to multiple projects? Yes, although I get the sense that if you mean automatically, I've never done that, so I would have to see if there's a way of doing that. I suspect there is. In fact, maybe I can just go back and click on it. I wonder if I could just automatically duplicate this reference into another folder. I suspect I could, but I may have to get back to you on that. Yes, but a long story is you can definitely add the reference to multiple projects, but I would have to see, can you add it like automatically, basically? I don't know the answer to that right now. If I already have hundreds of saved PDFs that need to be sorted and cataloged, which of the two would be more efficient? Ooh, I don't know, Sarah, do you have any thought? I mean, I would think they'd be relatively similar as far as.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I know that Zotero will allow you can upload a PDF directly and it'll extract the metadata. Ultimately, it would depend on the quality of the metadata. You know, is it I think I don't know kind of what capabilities RefWorks has, but that would be what I would try. You'd still have some work, you know, sorting and kind of doing doing quality control. The other thing, I mean, you know, being able to do like if you can somehow get a list of DOIs and stuff, that would help. But I think no matter what you do, at some level you're going to have a task to do. But I think that I think it would be worth trying to kind of do it in Zotero. I think you could probably just drag and drop up them all just directly in and just kind of go through stuff. It would just depend on kind of how what the embedded data is in the PDF that Zotero can read.
Okay, let's see. Hopefully that answers the question, but we can always come back to things in a minute. So quickly, uploading from databases. I'll start with Scout. The only reason I'm starting with Scout is because if you ever come across any EBSCO database like Scout or MLA, International Bibliography, or Sociological Index, I mean, I just butchered the title of that. Any database that looks kind of basically like this, it's all going to work the same way, basically. I'll just do a very, very basic search because it doesn't really matter. But if you find an article in a database like this, any article that you come across, book or article, if you click on them, there's always going to be over on the right-hand side of the screen, the button that says export. And if you click on that, it will be on direct export to RefWorks. And you can use this, as you see, direct export in RIS format. So you could use that for Zotero. In this case, it's just direct export to RefWorks. You just click save, and it'll ask you if you want to export to that. Then it'll ask you which project. I wonder if you could do both. That would actually kind of answer that question. It would seem like, well, I guess here you have to choose a project. Okay, well, we'll just choose this one, and we'll go ahead and put it in chapter 1 and import. And the article will be in your folder. And at this point, you can edit the article, you can add the PDF to it, etc. Other things, I'm not going to show you each one. Looks like we might have one chat. Okay. But I will show JSTOR, because JSTOR can kind of, well, not confuse people, but it's a little bit more hidden away on JSTOR. And JSTOR is a pretty commonly used database. If we click on JSTOR and find something, JSTOR, the easiest way to export directly from JSTOR, doesn't matter what it is just to click on the article or book that you want and then click on save. And you'll then be told to view workspace. And you probably should create a login for this, but at this point you can just click on the article and click on site and export to RefWorks. And it will go through the whole thing again, and you can just add it to your folder and click import. And you have started to build up a library of books. A little bit limited by time, so I'm not going to show each of these. There are some databases it does not work. Some databases it does not work as well as it should, like WorldCat. If you have any experience with WorldCat, basically WorldCat has a button that says export to RefWorks that doesn't work. My dog is now barking. Hopefully we don't hear that as well. All right, stop it. The joys of working from home. WorldCat, if you click the export to RefWorks button, it doesn't do anything, and it hasn't done anything in like 5 years, and no one knows why. But you can choose instead just to export as a text file, and then click add, and then upload a text file here. Let's see, is there anything in the chat? If not, I'm gonna move on from importing references. Although I will show you one last thing, which is importing from just Google searches. So here's where if you click on tools and you choose the install save to RefWorks button, when you do that, it will just take it up to your toolbar. So you have the save RefWorks button here. Now this works very well with some things and not quite as well with others. For example, I have something here from the Digital Public Library of America. And we also have my dog continuing to bark. Can we stop that, buddy? So basically, this works perfectly well, actually. If you just click on Save to RefWorks, it will have it as a web page. It has the title. It does not have the authors listed, so you do have to edit a few things in, but it has the URL, etc. Other things, like I just looked at this Vietnam archive, and this is one of the things where archives are not really going to usually have direct exports to RefWorks. So this is a little bit different. In this case, when you click on Save to RefWorks, it sort of just confuses it. It has journal article listed. It has a lot of other things wrong. So it's a bit hit or miss. So As far as exporting articles, let's see if there's any chats. And since the dissertations are ultimately submitted to ProQuest, is there any benefit for dissertations to use RefWorks that is already part of ProQuest? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure about that. My dog is just very committed to this barking.
I was gonna say I don't think so because because they're two kind of totally different services. So your citations in RefWorks won't be associated with your dissertation that is submitted to ProQuest dissertations and theses. I think that it doesn't really make a difference. I wouldn't use that as like a benchmark in terms of deciding how to do it.
That's my understanding as well. ProQuest, though, is pretty tied in with RefWorks. So if you're using ProQuest database, it's usually always going to work as far as the importing and exporting. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to move on really quickly to creating a bibliography and then doing citations. So as far as creating a bibliography, when you clicked on your chapter, you'll just go ahead and click Create Bibliography. And you can go ahead and click that and then just change the citation style to whatever you want. In this case, I'll choose Chicago and then just choose Copy to Clipboard, and then you can paste this into a Word document. Let's see. Yeah, we can. I will go ahead and wrap this up so we can look at that.
Yeah, you're fine.
And as far as, so that's the basics. But the other thing that you can do is under the tools section, like I was saying, is the Write and Cite plugin for Microsoft Word. So if you download this, and once you've done that, if you open up a Word document, you have a couple of options here. One, they have an option in the store. So if you type in RefWorks in the Microsoft Store, you'll get an add-in. And if you open it up, you'll get the citation manager over here, and you can choose your project, dissertation, or my stuff. Click on update, and you'll have your articles here. The older option, the one that you download, the Write and Cite, when you download Write and Cite, you'll see RefWorks at the top of your Office toolbar. And if you click on that, you'll see that you have this in here. Now, sometimes if you log out, you would have to sign in. If you sign in, it's just with your RefWorks information, your username and password. You will occasionally want to sync your database. And then once that's done, make sure that you are on the citation style that you would like. I'll just choose APA. I just probably have more experience with using this version, but the basics of it are as you are typing, you can just go to your RefWorks account, click on Insert Citation, Insert New, and we'll just go to Chapter 1 and find something to cite. And here at this point, you can choose to make it a footnote. You can hide things. So you can edit a prefix, suffix, very similar to what Sarah was doing with the Zotero. And then you can just, if you're happy with it as it is, you can click OK. And it will put the in-text citation in. And then when you're done, you can just insert the bibliography and it will insert it naturally. You can also add multiple citations to this. So if you're citing two different things in one sentence, you could click on whatever you're looking for, go ahead and add that, and you would have multiple citations. Let's see if there are any other questions. Those are the basics that I have for RefWorks. let's see, we can talk about a few things. What was the question? I think Sarah, someone had a question for
Yeah,
Sarah.
I had a question. I actually forgot to show how to actually like install the Zotero Word plugin. So I can show that real quick. Okay, so I think I can do this just showing Zotero. So I'm just showing you the Zotero menu. And so if you go to your top menu and choose tools, and then can you guys see the top menu, or are you just seeing the Zotero menu?
We're just...
Are you just seeing the Zotero window?
Yeah, just seeing Zotero.
Sorry, okay, hold on a minute. Thank you all for bearing with us as we as we learn how to share screens. Okay, so you can see that my when I'm in Zotero, I go to the tools menu at the top. And so the plugin for Word integration is bundled in when you download Zotero, and you just go to add-ons, and I can choose. I've already have this enabled, so I can Zotero Word for Mac integration is right here, and I can enable that. I can go to my preferences and tell it all kinds of things that I might want it to know, including, and I can see too, like what has been updated, and for the question earlier about is APA 7th edition in there, it is indeed. So you can also see kind of what styles you have available, and I can choose my preference in here. So that is that's how you do that, and then that will once you restart Zotero or Word, it'll be there. You can also do it in LibreOffice, and you can do it in Google Docs as well. You can add some different extensions. I have an extension called Zotfile, which kind of does some advanced PDF management that I'm happy to help anyone with. The Berkeley LibGuide that I linked in the slides has some really great tutorials for setting up Zotfile and doing some of the more complicated things that the setup is complicated, but it can simplify kind of accessing and organizing your PDFs for you. So, and if to be totally honest, I don't remember how I installed Zotero to be linked to my Google Docs, but it is. I think it might have done it once. It might do it more or less automatically when you install your browser plugin. So I am, yeah, that is the Word plugin.
RefWorks also does a Google Doc plugin. It does pretty much the same thing as the Microsoft Word right in sight. So you don't have to have Word necessarily, although you obviously can get Word through the university. Let's see. So that's the majority of what we have. We have time for a couple of things, which I guess we're going to point out possibly a few quick differences. We also have some resources, and we'll share the recording and also the slides with you. But as far as differences, I don't think I spend a whole lot of time going through this. You probably got the sense these are relatively similar. Zotero is free. RefWorks is free to you, and you can keep it. They work pretty similarly as far as citation generators, things like that. My guess is that mainly most people just choose one and get used to it, and when they do that, usually they're relatively happy with how it works. Is my guess. What I seem to think, my impression of Zotero is that it might be a little bit better if you use a lot of non-traditional sources or maybe web sources. As the RefWorks, Save to RefWorks Google plugin, I find is sort of hit or miss in how well it works. So if you're working with a lot of non-traditional sources, i.e. sources do not come straight from a library database or library catalog or things like that, then it's possible that Zotero might be a little bit better for you. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Sarah, or if you agree or disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I think the big thing that Zotero does that's really useful if you are a person doing research on using web sources that have that may not be stable. So like social media posts or web like pages that change if you're doing that kind of research. When you use the plugin to or use the browser extension to save a source like that, it will automatically capture a screenshot at that time. So like if you are doing research on Twitter and it'll preserve that kind of source. And I think I agree with Alex. I think people, when I started using a citation manager, RefWorks was still the old RefWorks, and I tried using it and I didn't like it. And I started using Zotero, and it's what I'm comfortable with, but I think there's not, at the end of the day, not really a right or wrong answer, to what you use and how you use it, as long as it works for you.
Okay, so we have maybe a little bit of time for questions, not a whole lot of time. I mean, we can stick around as long as necessary, or relatively speaking. But if you have any questions that have not been asked, I will also go ahead and put up our contact information, because we're going to share these slides. These whole things of like Gorgas 105, it's sort of in a fantasy land where we come to Gorgas.
Kind of the same thing with the phone numbers too, to be honest. Not that people tend to really call us very often, but email is probably the best way to reach us right now.
Also, I forgot that with the Gorgas Library renovations, they're changing all the room numbers. So by the time that we actually come back to work, it might not actually be Gorgas 105. It might be like a different room number. And then my contact information is relatively similar. And it looks like we have one question on the chat.
I can speak to that a little bit because I have used Scrivener. I wrote my dissertation in Scrivener, and there was not at the time, and as far as I can tell, not now a extension for Zotero for Scrivener. That was always a big frustration for me. There are some ways that you can code citations. I never had much luck with it, but it's been a while since I tried it, so things might be different now. And what I wound up doing was kind of manually keeping a folder with the references that I was using, and just doing my citations, which wasn't hard for the kind of research that I was doing. It was often a little easier than all the clicks to add a citation kind of with the Zotero plugin, and then just so I was using it more as an organizational tool, and then generating my bibliography from that. So I don't know, again, it's been a little while, and I don't have the newest version of Scrivener, so there might be some updated capabilities that I don't know about.
I thought that EndNote worked with Scrivener. EndNote is another citation manager, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Maybe we can kind of provide an answer afterwards when we say, if we can find out about something, we'll send this out with the email where we send everyone the link to this, to the recording. Any other questions? Well, we thank you for attending, and thank you for being the guinea pigs for our first Zoom workshop, which included cameos from both of our pets.
Yes.
So yes, like I said, we will send this out to everyone. We'll send out an email tomorrow probably with a link to this recording and our slides, and possibly some of those further resources.
I'm glad the cat cameos were were appreciated. He wants my attention. And he won't. I think he has a box on my desk that he's supposed to sleep in, but he doesn't stay in it.
My dog goes bananas barking like once a day, possibly once every 2 days, and it just happened to be during this, fortunately enough. So. All right. Well, thank you for everyone coming, and let us know if you need anything.